While many are enjoying the unofficial start to summer, we all need to be prepared for the official start to hurricane season. It starts on Saturday and runs through November 30th, and this year, meteorologists are expecting an above-average hurricane season. We are getting you prepared now, so if a storm hits, you are ready. We need three things in order for a hurricane to form: a cluster of thunderstorms, gentle winds that will not tear apart a hurricane and allows it to grow, becoming a stronger system, and warm ocean water. The water needs to be at least 80 degrees for 150 feet. WFMY News 2's meteorologist Tim Buckley takes a look at current water temperatures and what it means for this hurricane season.
So how are hurricane conditions looking this year? Well, we'll start with the water temperatures, and I have bad news. Right now, the Atlantic Ocean is looking warm, really warm. In fact, it's about above average pretty much everywhere that we can track using satellites. Right now, those water temperatures are already at that magic 80-degree number in a good chunk of the ocean. That is not what we want to see still here in the month of May. In fact, we really look at one particular part of the Atlantic. We call it the Main Development Region, or MDR. What that is, that's the area between Africa and the Caribbean. And in that zone, we're already seeing 80-degree water, which means you can start to build those storms when they're still farther away from the United States, which gives them more time to gather strength and move across the ocean.
And with every storm, there are watches and warnings. So let's break down the difference between the two. First, we have hurricane watch. This means the conditions are possible to form a hurricane. Conditions include high winds, heavy rains, and flooding. What should you do during a watch? Well, know your evacuation route, have a disaster kit ready, and stay in the know as weather conditions change. Warnings are a little more serious. Hurricane conditions are possible within 24 hours. High winds over 75 miles per hour, heavy rain, and flooding. What should you do if a hurricane warning is issued? Evacuate if orders are in place, close all of those interior doors, and stay away from windows. NOAA released its official hurricane forecast last week, and it's predicting a very active hurricane season. Meteorologist Christian Morgan breaks down its predictions and how tropical forecasting works.
Well, heading into hurricane season, which officially on the calendar starts this Saturday, June 1st through November 30th. But as you know, tropical systems can form and can impact us outside of that window of time. We've seen that happen before. Nonetheless, here is the NOAA outlook for this hurricane season. On average, we have about 14 named storms, but they're predicting 17 to 25 named storms, meaning tropical storm status or stronger. 7 hurricanes on average, forecasting 8 to 13 this year. And on average, we have about 3 major hurricanes, meaning category 3, 4, or 5. The forecast is for 4 to 7 of those this year. And just a good rule of thumb as we start to watch things in the tropics, and if anything forms that we think may impact us, here's a good rule of thumb, or our rules for tropical forecasting, if you will. 7 to 10 days out, we're really starting to look at the pattern. Is this system going to strengthen, or is it likely to weaken down? Once we get a little closer, 5 to 7 days, we're narrowing down the path. Where is this system most likely headed? Who are the folks that are most likely impacted by this storm in about a week, 5 to 7 days away? Once we start to get to that 3 to 5 day window, we're starting to really nail down the path of that storm, where it's headed, who's most likely to feel strong impacts from this, and that's where we start to see preparations being put in place as that storm gets a little closer. 1 to 3 days out, we really nail down, try to pinpoint where the storm could make landfall, what kind of rain we're going to get, kind of wind we're going to get, or even a storm impact that we could possibly see where we live. All good things to keep in mind, but just know the News 2 weather team is always watching out for you and will always have you prepared.
And this is the list of the names for this year's hurricane season. Once a storm is formed in the Atlantic Ocean, it will be named using this list. If every name is used on the list, then it will switch to the Greek alphabet. We are able to keep a close eye on every storm that forms thanks to hurricane hunters. They fly right into the middle of the storm. Well, how do they do that, and what are they doing while inside that storm? It's all about science.
Hurricane hunters provide a lot of information about a storm, but how are they even getting inside? They're flying a plane called a WC-130J, like this one. It's a modified version of the C-130 plane that you might see dropping that red stuff on a fire out west. These planes are tough. They can fly for longer periods of time, and they can really take a beating. These airborne science missions are run by the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron, which has been flying into storms since 1944. In the cargo section of the plane, there are 2 different pallets of computer systems that take all the data from the sensors on the plane's exterior to help determine what's going on inside the storm. The hunters also drop these parachute-type sensors, called SONs, which float through the storm, relaying info about a storm's pressure, wind speed, and direction. That information all comes together, gets processed, and is then shared through the National Hurricane Center for us to share with all of you.
And there are things you can do now to be ready for any type of storm. Create an emergency kit. Make a communication plan with a list of contacts, develop an evacuation plan, start planning where you would go and how you would get there. As far as your emergency kits, you should have water, at least 1 gallon per person a day, and non-perishable food, enough for several days. You should also have a battery-powered radio, flashlights with extra batteries, fire extinguisher, and chargers for your phone or other devices. You also need to have a first aid kit. It should be filled with things like bandages, antiseptic wipes, instant ice packs, and adhesive tape with scissors. A new report is showing concerns in North Carolina on whether we are prepared for hurricane season. Experts say many homes along the coast aren't up to standard with the international residential codes. These are put in place to make sure all buildings can better withstand natural storms and overall protect families in North Carolina. New codes are normally adopted every 3 years, but experts say the state is currently 9 years behind using codes adopted in 2015. The state is expected to be even further behind within the next decade if lawmakers don't push new laws. Well, whenever there is something to track in the tropics, trust the News 2 app to get you the most accurate information. Our meteorologists have been rated the most accurate for the last decade. We'll be back.